Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. Shawn's the name and YouTube is the game today. YouTube has gotten some crazy facelifts over the year, and today I actually want to take a step back and take a trip down memory lane to see all of the old features that YouTube used to have that either failed miserably or that we no longer have. So here we go. Now, YouTube is quite the fickle beast, but before we go into all of the old features and features that might have failed on the platform, I want to take a second to actually know when you started watching YouTube. So let me know in the comments down below when you got hooked on to the YouTube platform. I think for me, it started back in 2007. I think I watched my first ever YouTube video back in 2007, then created my first account in 2009, started posting videos and all that jazz, but I'm interested to learn when you actually started on YouTube. So drop me a comment, but obviously YouTube looks a lot different than when I watched my first video back in 2007. Lots of changes have come to the platform, but let's start our list out with something very simple that hopefully a lot of you should remember is one of the most popular changes YouTube has ever made, which is the old rating system. YouTube used to have its users rate a video from 1 to 5, kind of like how a Google review works, and it's actually pretty funny. If you can find some old videos on YouTube, you can hear some of the creators in those videos saying, hey, make sure you leave me a 5-star rating on this video, I'd really appreciate it. Instead of nowadays, you hear all the creators say, destroy, annihilate, smash that like button. Which, by the way, is what you should do right now in this video. Make sure you click that like button. But yes, long gone are the days of the 5-star rating on YouTube, and nowadays we've just got that glorious like-dislike button. And next up, another long gone feature that a lot of people probably don't remember at all is going to be bulletins. These were very simple to use, and while they were very prehistoric, it kind of served its purpose to engage with the channel's subscriber base on YouTube. Although it felt a little spammy to most users, so YouTube ended up removing that years and years and years ago, and then brought back a more refined version of it, aka the community tab in 2016. And this is what most creators see and use today. I think it's a phenomenal tool on YouTube, but Bulletins is really what sparked that whole community tab way back in the day. And yeah, it's a cool feature to kind of have now. But next up on our list is actually going to be groups, which is a feature that many people actually loved and got a kick out of back in the day. When I mean back in the day, I mean like way back in the day. This is one of those very initial features on YouTube that not many people know about. So if you've never heard of them before, they were basically just like modern day Facebook groups where you could join a group focused on a specific topic and then post and chat about that within the group. It was pretty cool to kind of talk with like-minded people on the platform, but YouTube got rid of those years ago, and we've never seen something similar since then. Next up is properly working video notifications. Those have been long gone, and it is quite a tragedy. Moving on, the video toolbox is hilarious to look back on. It's basically the primitive version of the YouTube Studio dashboard where YouTube pushes tips and tricks for newer creators to learn how to create higher quality content. And the only difference between the video toolbox back in the day and today's modern day studio dashboard is the fact that the tips and tricks back in the day were focused on creating good quality content. Now, most of those tips and tricks are focused on how to grow your channel, which is backwards thinking. But moving on to the next feature is something that is somewhat recently taken away from us, which is the YouTube messaging system. Most people didn't even know this was a thing, which is actually pretty surprising to me. And this is crazy because back in the day when some of my channels were absolutely banging, getting millions and millions of views every month, and I was getting thousands of comments every month, I wasn't really getting that many messages into my YouTube inbox because most people just didn't know it existed. Now, YouTube's main reasoning behind this feature was so brands could contact creators or business communication could happen, but it just wasn't working. So they got rid of that feature in 2018, and now all private communication is basically directed towards the business inquiry email button. Sweet, but next up is actually a fun one that most people probably don't remember, which is the video responses. This truly was a failed YouTube feature, and it was pretty hilarious. So imagine instead of commenting on a video saying how much you hated that creator, you could do that in video form. It came off pretty spammy most of the time, and pretty much no one clicked on these videos. It had like a 0.004% click-through rate, so YouTube said, to the hell with it. Nowadays, you just search whatever you want to find a response to with the word reaction next to it, and you're fine. But next up on the list is something I hope most of you actually remember, because it's one of the biggest changes, at least since I've been on YouTube, that a lot of people have really recognized, which is the YouTube channel layout. This used to be like a privilege for those that were partnered on YouTube at the time with an MCN. And looking back on it, this is probably why MCNs had so much power and got people into some crazy contracts back in the day. But YouTube probably realized what was happening, and they took this away and completely revamped what channels look like in the summer of 2013, which is pretty much what you see now. This update was absolutely crazy. I remember it turned so many heads when it happened. But moving on to the next one, number 9 is actually the YouTube friends list. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? Most people never knew this even existed because it's so old. And since nobody really used this feature, YouTube said, okay, we're just gonna make all of your friends into subscribers, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it, because on this channel, I have 6,000 friends, not subscribers. Oh, and if you're not subscribed already, you totally should be. Do it. But while we're talking about super old features, let's continue the trend and talk about another thing that not a lot of people know about, which is the YouTube honors that were given back in the day. These were basically the OG and ultimate clout badge that showed up on your channel or your videos for basically just being a boss in the YouTube office. It was basically a popularity contest. But moving on to the next one, which is actually piggybacking off of the honors, is going to be that fun little YouTube sidebar we used to have. This was basically the OG about section of your YouTube channel. Obviously, now things look much different and way better. But that was an OG feature for sure. Moving on to the next one, let's kind of fast forward a little bit into the future. Let's talk about a recent feature that was kind of canned, and that is going to be the branded intros. These were 3-second intros that played before your actual video, but so many people didn't understand it and didn't like it, so it literally only lasted a year before YouTube got rid of it. So, good idea there, Lawrence. And then when YouTube finally fired Lawrence for his terrible ideas, they must have hired someone else who was a lot better, because around the same time, YouTube finally fixed the 301 YouTube view count glitch. So if you didn't know, prior to August of 2015, videos would get 301 views and then freeze for about a day or so to get caught up and display an accurate view count. Supposedly, YouTube had it freeze at 301 to validate the views, but who really knows with all their secretive BS? This is one of the most popular changes and features that was kind of gotten rid of on YouTube that a lot of people were really hoping and waiting for. It was absolutely insane when all of a sudden a major creator would post a video and you'd be like, whoa, they're getting like 30,000 views within the first hour. That's insane. But on the flip side of that, let's talk about a feature that a lot of people really hated when YouTube got rid of, which is the YouTube Annotations. These were like those little boxes in a video that could link users to other videos and whatnot, but problem was it was starting to get really, really spammy, and they never worked on mobile, which is why YouTube ended up replacing them with the end screens that you see today. And then number 15 on our list for another feature that always seems to fail miserably on us is going to be monetization. Next up though is video loading. Now YouTube used to load the entire video when you landed on the view page, and this helped people with slow internet connections because if you rewinded the video, the rest would all still stay loaded in. Nowadays, when you rewind, YouTube reloads the video again, which is brutal for slow internet users. Not a huge deal because internet speeds have improved tremendously and you don't really run into too many video buffering issues, but it's still pretty rough for those with potatoes as modems. And speaking about loading a video in, number 17 is actually a really cool one, and it's something that I didn't even know existed until I started making this video, which is the fact that YouTube actually had a snake game you could play over the video while you were waiting for the video to load. I have no clue when YouTube discontinued this feature. It's actually kind of a shame. I think that'd be really cool to have. So forget voting for Trump or Bernie or whatever. Like, let's vote to get this snake game back on YouTube. Next one, though, is Google+. What a fail that was. But number 19 on this list is actually something that irks me quite a bit, and it's the fact that YouTube got rid of displaying the amount of search results when you do a search query. So like they used to show how many videos a search would return, but just recently in 2018 they discontinued this, so now if you want to see how many results it brings, you have to go to Google and then type in your search term followed by site www.youtube.com. It's pretty dumb. But whatever, YouTube's trying to make the site more user-friendly and cleaner and all this stuff, whatever. Then lastly, what's this video without mentioning the YouTube Rewind? If you don't know, YouTube spends massive amounts of money each year to produce a video that recaps the entire year on YouTube. Cool, right? Yeah, well, they've been progressively becoming more and more of a failure as the years go on. So I'll be interested to see how the 2019 rewind goes. It should be coming up on us in the next 30 to 60 days, so we'll see how it goes. But hopefully you enjoyed this video as we took a trip down memory lane on YouTube. And again, leave me a comment down below. When did you start watching YouTube? How many of these features do you actually remember? And again, if you liked the video, make sure you subscribe for more content from me and also tap the like button on this. I would really appreciate it. But I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.